thousands and thousands of years. And I think, honestly, we've been rebooted. One thing I will say, Earl, one scientist is claiming we're very close to opening up a parallel universe. And if that happens, that's going to be interesting.
Beware.
Yeah, that too.
What's going to come through? Jack Parsons and it was Robert Heinlein, Jack Parsons from JPL, and the guy that started Scientology. What's his name? Can't say his name. Brain fart. Happens when you hit your early 60s. But they did sort of like a seance and apparently opened up a portal. And right after that is, Roswell happened and all the weird UFO events happened. They might have actually let the aliens in mass. That may be what we're experiencing. So, you got to be careful about opening up portals to other universes because other stuff can get through. And it's not always nice. What's that one TV show? It's on right now. Oh God. But all you have to do is read enough Stephen King, and it's always a cautionary tale. And maybe we should take that stuff more seriously. Be careful about what Pandora's box you open.
Well, we should. My friend, who does the news and stuff on my show, James Grishbaum, he's always talking about the Invaders, that old TV show. It was Quinn Martin, the Invaders. Well, I remember watching it when it originally came out, but I would try to stay up and watch it a couple of times, but I always would fall asleep because the amount of hours I put in doing the show. Well, I managed to watch it a week ago, and I watched the beginning of the thing, and it talks about they are coming to Earth to make Earth their own and basically to get rid of us humans. So it makes you wonder. I mean, they sat there and wrote a movie or a TV script show back in the 60s about something like that. Maybe it wasn't so far-fetched.
You hear a lot of people, with ufology, there's as much fiction out there, probably more fiction than there is truth, because it gets us all thinking and people misconstrue certain events. And so you have to be careful saying that it's this way or that way, But you do hear a lot, one thing, that there are certain races that would like to destroy us, that are very uncomfortable with our level of technology and our lack of foresight or intuition. And you keep hearing it said by people that whether through channeling or else what. And I know that's getting into kind of woo-woo territory, but, well, I deal with high strangeness, and that's kind of woo-woo too. I try to keep my brain inside my brain case here. But, you hear that perhaps there are benevolent races that are halting the more malevolent agendas that are out there. I think that there may be freedom of choice going on, that it may be sort of, you got to wonder where the Star Trek Foundation comes from, where you've got all these different races, and, you've got Klingons, and you have Vulcans, and you have other races that are more like us. But, there's like a gentler hand that's kind of saying, no, you're going too far, stop. And maybe we're experiencing some of that because we're still here. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with this new virus that is going around as our new pandemic, but hopefully that's going to be sort of like Ebola and other things that will get it under control. So far, we're still here.
Yeah. We'll know about that in about 30 days. That we'll know.
Yeah.
I know right now it's not a good time. I'm not going to say this, but the people that have money in the stock market are complaining because they're losing it like mad right now because stock market is, in some countries, I mentioned that before I brought you on. I saw this video from BBC, and I can't remember what country they were in, but the people, the checkout, at the grocery store, were in these plastic bubbles with the hands through it, where they could put their arms through, and they would take the items and scan it, but they were in an airtight bubble, so they didn't breathe what the customers were, bringing, to the counter. That's going to another extreme, but we don't know what's going to happen. We don't. There was a case.
They're doing
now,
that in China and certain provinces right now.
So you hear what they're doing? I'm going to say,
you order food. You want to get takeout food, that they're writing down who it was that prepared it and what their temperature was, and who delivered it to you and what their temperature was. It's all on the receipt. And that's how seriously they're taking it. So people are scared of this thing.
Well, you know, I was going to say, you know what they're doing in North Korea. You come down with it.
Right. They shot the first person. I read that too.
Yeah, that's scary. But you think about it, you know, it could really tank, if this does spread, it could really tank our economy fast, because who's going to want to go and get fast food? Who's going to go get their cup of coffee in the morning or afternoon? Who is going to want to go to the grocery store? Because how many people pick up canned goods and look at the label, making a decision, do I want to buy this or not, then put it back? Then you have to worry about who touched it before you touched it, and now you touched it. I mean, this is scary because we don't know if it's from breathing or is contact. You touch it and then you rub your eyes or put your fingers in your mouth or something. It's scary. We'll know more in about a month. You know, maybe we're overreacting. Some people say it's nothing more than a cold, but you know what? There's sure a lot of people starting to die on it.
Yeah, there are people that are dying, and you know, I'm a nurse. That's what I do for a living, and you know, we're used to gowning up and masking up and washing our hands properly, and you use antibiotic hand scrub through the day, and that's the way that you live. Otherwise, you wind up getting pneumococcal infections in the hospital or wherever that you're working. Yeah, and that's a thing, you know. I mean, there's like little pandemics that happen sort of in targeted areas. So, I mean, we know how to deal with these, and we deal with them on a small scale all the time, actually. I worked in a hospital at one time where somebody flushed antibiotics down the drain stupidly, and they wound up having a virus that was immune to penicillin in this hospital. They had to close it down. They had problems for years with this. I won't mention the hospital because I don't want to get a lawsuit. It was like 30-some years ago.
Now, hey, wait a minute. Now, Earl, we've got a caller. Caller, you're on Night Dreams Talk Radio with me, Gary, and Earl Grey. Who do we have? Okay, who do we have, caller? Caller, who do we have?
This is Audrey.
Well, hi, Audrey.
Hey, Audrey, how you doing? It's the blue alien.
Hey, guys. It's the blue alien. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good too. I told you I would listen. I'm not square. You said be there or
you
be
are
square.
Not square.
I am
if
not.
You were, what was that Buddy Holly song? You're so square, but baby, I don't care, right? But you're not
there
square.
You go.
So did you have something you wanted to ask in particular, or are you just calling to say hey?
Well, I was calling to say hey, and also we are having the anniversary, the last couple of days of Battle of Los Angeles, and that is actually one of my favorite stories or events that happened locally. I'm
That's
not that far from where this all
story.
Went down. I'm sorry?
That's 1942. That's an early UFO story, and it is a local one.
Right. And I know this weekend, a Saturday, they're holding an event. They have a big bands come in, people dress up in period costume. They have a mock battle, fire blanks, hopefully, into the air. The raid, the drill, everything goes on. So I was hoping to be able to make it down there tomorrow night to check it out. But I was wondering, is there any other information out there? Do we know what really happened? Was it Foo Fighters? Is it UFOs? Was it UAPs? What was it? Do you know?
I'm not positive. It sure is a compelling case. I mean, now I've sort of had a little not an argument, but sort of a discourse with one of my old friends on social media the other day about the Battle of L.A., where, he was kind of saying, well, it was probably a Japanese balloon, and their aim was so bad that they couldn't bring it down. But the fact is, they kept shooting at this thing for hours, and it was lit up with floodlights and with searchlights, and you can see the old photograph, and it sure looks like sort of a top-shaped object. Doesn't look like the Fugo balloons that the Japanese were sending over here loaded with explosives. I mean, there was a family that was actually killed by one of those. That were on a picnic in a rural area where the Japanese sent these balloons that were filled with explosives. A few of them got here. I think probably the lion's share of them probably crashed in the middle of nowhere, and people haven't even found them yet.
No, they found some in Oregon.
Yeah, they found one that was working, and unfortunately actually killed a family that approached it. And that was back in the 1950s, I think, when that happened. But I mean, the Battle of L.A. it was one large object. If you look at the photograph that was published in the Los Angeles Times, you can see all the lights of the ordnance. That's our shells that were exploding in the air. Bombs bursting in air. Talk about the national anthem. That was bombs bursting in the air for a couple of hours. If it was a balloon, it seems very strange to me that they couldn't bring it down. It seemed to hover there for a long time, for a couple of hours, and then it just eventually took off. Now, there's other accounts where some people say that it actually landed or crashed somewhere in the San Bernardino Mountains. I honestly can't see us bringing a UFO down with just plain old shells, from a cannon fire. So my guess is that if anything came down in the mountains, that it meant to go down there, and perhaps they landed to, reconvene, figure out what they're going to do, and get the heck out of Dodge, because we're being shelled by these primitives down there. So that may well indeed have been a UFO encounter. It might have been a balloon, or it might have been war nerves, but I like to think it was probably a UFO.
I happen to agree.
Now, hey,
I like to think it was a UFO as well.
Now, Audrey,
the pictures are compelling.
Audrey, I got a question for you. You mentioned about these UFO pictures. It's being put up. I don't want to mention his name because he's been a guest on my show in Las Vegas.
Right.
Now, what I did, I just want to say, I called up a couple things. I called up the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Mm-hmm. I called up the FAA. I talked to the control tower in Las Vegas. I talked to the Air Force Base near there at Las Vegas. And I also talked to a private pilot that has, a plane not on the Las Vegas International Airport, but another airport by. And all of them told me the same thing, that they check for radiation around the hillsides and the mountains on a regular schedule several times a month. Now, the thing is, they all told me, right down from the FAA, the control tower, right down the line, if there was UFOs that often, or any UFO, the first thing they would do is close the international airport down. They wouldn't allow planes to come in or take off. The Air Force told me that undoubtedly they would send out planes to investigate it. Now, what I heard from the Nuclear Regulatory, that they have a helicopter or helicopters checking for radiation. They go around the hilltops, they stop, take readings, they go on. Now, I've been on a lot of helicopters in my past. A lot. But I've been on at least a couple hundred. Now, I can honestly tell you, when a helicopter hovers and then goes out of the hovering, the nose goes down and then it stabilizes and comes up and it goes on. Now, I also am one of the very first people in this country to get Photoshop, because besides my career of 40 some years in broadcasting, I